are emergency doctors. You never know who is walking through those doors, but you tend to everybody without fear.
The staff of the Gucci, Kolebu, KCCR, and all other testing centers. Where would we be without you?
We know some of you have been badly affected by this virus, yet you defy the fear of the unknown to fight against this virus on our behalf.
You have been awesome in these trying times. You put your lives on the line every day.
We feel safe because we know you are there. We really do appreciate you all. And what we can say at this moment is thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Akbenami, that's all we can say.
Welcome back. It's a Monday morning. It's a great time for us to be here in the studios of Prime Morning, to be specific, right here on Joy Prime TV. How are you doing? And of course, I'm not here alone. I came with my team and my battalion and my bosses and my leaders.
Who are not looking as good as you are.
Oh, thank
with
you.
the coffee brown vest and trousers. Ooh,
I'm trying to maintain.
With the checkered
Okay,
jackets,
guys.
bro.
Okay, all right.
I mean, if you had told me that this is how you were stepping out today, I would have called in sick. Jay Foley, my brother.
How are you doing?
And I'm good, Charlie. How are you doing?
Take it easy on me.
Oh.
Bans have been lifted, so we can ease some restrictions and get ourselves warming up. I mean, like cooling off, more like it.
Emefa, can you do church in 1 hour?
I can try.
You can try.
There's a lot to say.
It's not a culture I'm used to, but I can try.
There's a lot to say to God in 1 hour.
There's a lot to say to God,
However, would 100 people be enough to satisfy the audience and the persons who would want to go to church?
Oh, you can have about 6, 7 services in a day. 7 services is 700 people, right?
Yes.
Business, bro. Anyway, we are looking at this issue among a number of others, including the reopening of schools that has been announced. Interestingly enough, we have a lot of similar ideas to what we proposed here at our virtual policy forum last week. So today, expect to hear the information minister here on Prime Morning explaining a bit more of what the president said, including our panel of experts who'll be breaking it down for all of us to understand.
All right, so it's a good time to start you off with the Daily Nuggets. Welcome to Prime Morning. Now, today's nugget is by the popular Steve Jobs, and he says that if you're working on something that you really care about, you don't have to be pushed. The vision pulls you.
The vision pulls you. I love that.
Yeah.
Now, Steve Paul Jobs was born on the 24th of February, 1955. And he was an American business magnate. If you don't know who Steve Jobs was, iPhone, Apple, all of those products. He was the CEO of that company. Industry designer, investor, and media proprietor. Do you know that he designed the fonts on iPhone?
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Originally, he was an artist, and so he used to do calligraphy. Yeah, so actually that font's design is not found in any other design.
I'm sure that was his part-time on the side, and he charged the company even to get that as well. Let's get to know more facts about Steve Jobs this morning. Now, he was the chairman and CEO and co-founder of Apple Incorporated. Now, the chairman and majority also shareholder of Pixar. I don't know if you know Pixar. It's the animation company. Yes, a member of the Walt Disney Company's board of directors and the founder, chairman, and CEO of Next, if I can say, or is it NEXT? Well, let's move on now. He also listed, he is listed as either primary inventor or co-inventor in 346 US patents or 346 United States patents. That is a lot of patents, right?
I know.
and is widely, I beg your pardon, recognized as a pioneer of the personal computer revolution of the 1970s and 1980s. Lastly, in 2011, Steve Jobs was worth the interesting one, $7 billion.
USD.
$7 billion
I think
US.
I'm doing 200,000 CDs today. But I'll still keep it. I'm something though.
Hey, 200,000 is still a lot
It
of
can
money.
change my
Dollars,
life.
It's
CDs.
2 billion
I want to be patriotic.
old CDs.
Yes,
2 billion.
Almost just
We a big man.
5 billion something away from Steve Jobs.
So that's something.
Questions for the information minister. Please send them in on the short code *889
*899 *76 hash.
76 hash. Thank
I'm
you
not
very
able
much,
to send
Jane.
that message, so kindly ask him if I should go to church or not. I need a yes or no answer.
You want Kojo to tell you if you are going to church?
Should I go to church or not?
It's going to be very interesting, I must say.
All right, let me say a big thank you to Dress Your Clothing for my outfit. Big thank you. Really, really love it. Now, are you going to say something to this?
I wonder if I should say thanks to my full sky. I don't.
Yeah, particularly when hands are
My
wet.
twice and I have horseman shoes always keeping me decked now. Thank you so much.
All right, so have you been working out? Have you been working out? Jamal is up with Shake Up.
Good morning, viewers. Good morning. We are here today again for the Shake Up. Okay, so today we're doing arms and shoulders workout. So if you're ready, I hope you have your weight. If you don't have, you can get a bottle of water. Then you join us. I hope you're also staying safe. Okay, let's go. Okay.
Hi, I'm Kiani and
Okay, so let's go. First with the weights, let's start with the shoulders. Okay, we're doing 10. Let's go. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Very good. 10 seconds rest. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's go. We go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Very good. 10 seconds. We go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So on the shoulders. Ready? Bend your knee. Let's go. We go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's go. 5 more. We go. Let's go. 1. We go. 2. Let's go. 3. We go. 4. Let's go. 5. Very good. Very good. 10 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10. Okay, let's go with the weight. All right, so hold, bend your knee. Let's do the flies. We go. 1, 2. Let's go. 3. We go. 4, 5. We go. 6. Let's go. 7. Good. 8. 9. 10. Very good. 5 more. Let's go. 5 more. Go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Very good. All right. Let's go with the weights. We go. Let's go. Watch. Down. Let's go. We go. 1. We go. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We go 8, 9, 10. Let's go. 5 more. We go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Last one. We go. 5. Very good. 10 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, let's start with the arms. Let's do the arms. Ready? Go. Let's go. 1. We go. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's go. 11. We go. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Very good. All right, so pick one. Pick one. No, you can face the side. Face the side. Face. Go down. Very good. So let's go. Stretch. 1. We go. 2, 3. Up. We go. 4, 5. Let's go. 6. Stretch. We go. 7. Let's go. 8, 9, 10. Let's go. Okay, change. 10, change. Let's go. We go. 1. Very good. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's go. 9, 10. Very good. Very good. Okay, so let's stretch. We have 2 minutes. So let's use the 2 minutes to stretch. Here we go. Go side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, change. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Very good. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Very good. Let's go. Same way. We go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, change. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, thanks for watching. We'll catch you same time tomorrow and stay safe.
It's kind of different when Jamal doesn't say it's all about the shake-up. I don't know, like, it just doesn't work for me. Jamal, bring back it's all about the shake-up. How can you do that, bro? I was looking out for that. That was the shake-up. I hope you've gotten some good tips, though, to keep you in shape throughout the day. Jay, anything to tell us this morning?
Well, before we jump into News Flash, look, I'll tell you what. So this whole protest, this Black Lives Matter has been a trend that has been going across, all weekend with regards to what happened in the U.S. with the killing of George Floyd, murdered, if I can say, by a police officer. Now, even a statement came out that, guess what? The police officer didn't murder George Floyd because he had he was already ill and died of that and not the brutality.
Well, he's been charged with murder.
He's been charged with murder, however.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's been charged with murder, so we'll see what it really means.
Mm-hmm.
This has to be one of the most seminal moments in America right now. Mm-hmm. I interviewed a woman because I hosted the midday news during the weekend. I came to host the midday news on Joy News. I interviewed this woman, Nana. She's a Ghanaian.
Okay.
13 years ago, her brother died. The police told her that her brother drowned. Oh. But the autopsy showed that he didn't have any water in his lungs, which is what drowning basically is.
Exactly.
So they suspected foul play by the police. This is a Ghanaian woman who grew up here. She's called Sophie Coleman. And she now lives around Maryland, which is near DC. Mm-hmm. And she was saying that these things happen every day. George Floyd is just the one we heard of.
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, even in Minneapolis, the head of police department is black. He's black.
We've had
so
an
is it a
American
black
president
issue?
who was black.
Yeah, so what's the point?
Well, we'll be talking to a colleague of mine who's also in the US now. Will give us a sense of what's happening, you know, on ground and how people feel like. But anyway, let's start off with our news flash this morning, right about now, and let's find out what's buzzing on the front of the papers. All right, so how about we just start off with Daniel? What do you have on your papers?
I'll start with the finder, as I love to do. 113 new infections, 301 recoveries, new COVID-19 cases. The COVID-19 case count in Ghana has crossed 8,000, guys. It's officially Assembly Oho. Completion date of infectious disease facility shifted to June 30. I was very, very curious about this one because I expected that the speed at which this infectious disease facility was being put together, I mean the 100-bed National Infectious Diseases Isolation and Treatment Facility, it was supposed to end around May.
Yes.
It, of course, May was yesterday. The ending has been shifted to June 30. Okay, so some enhancements were made to the design, and that's how come it's been shifted. ICOMs take over at Tema Port today. UK aid-backed zipline drones facilitate Ghana's COVID-19 flight.
Wow.
That's it for the front page of the final newspaper.
Okay, quickly, the BNFT decided to describe the ease on the restriction as phase 1 of reviving economy outdoor, as restaurants, conferences, schools open partially. And details of this is on the front page of the BNFT. ICOMs also take over to my port today, as Daniel said. Details of this is also on page 3 of the BNFT. Basically, a lot more on ICOMs and also restrictions that have been eased by the president. I'm going to go to Jay for the Ghanaian Times.
Well, Ghanaian Times this morning, 500,000 smokers risk contracting COVID-19. Well, of course, it just wouldn't be a good time for a lot of people, exactly, even with underlying, you know, conditions as well. But hey, don't forget, this show is probably brought to you by Fan Milk. I'll tell you more about Fan Milk and how you can actually even order some to your home this morning as well. Also on the front of Ghanaian Times, now great news, Students Loan Trust Fund to disburse 32.3 million Ghana cedis by the end of 2019-2020 academic year. And also Zoomlion disinfect Central Mosque in response to Chief Imam's appeal. Now this one also very interesting. 16 women nabbed over fake currency printing distribution in Kumasi. Fake currency. Some people want to put some price. I mean, what's his name? Steve Jobs is 7 billion, right? So maybe they want to inject some more money into the economy.
But you know, on this
well.
list of 500,000 people who are smoking, you know, yesterday was World No Tobacco Day.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's been found that tobacco manufacturing companies are trying to shift their customer base to the next generation. So it's been made more sexy, it's been made more nice, especially with this e-cigarette phase.
Yeah.
No, what's it called? The vape.
Okay.
The vapors. And I remember I was in this work trip to the UK when someone's lung collapsed in the US.
Wow.
Yeah, from using vapors. Yeah.
So that was safe.
Yeah, his one of his lungs collapsed.
But they were actually projecting the vapes as better than the tobacco itself.
So medical opinion is a bit split. A majority have said that it's actually no different if you use a vape machine.
Wow.
But women are they're getting the memos. They get it empowered. How much were they fake CDs again in Kumasi? The memo we are sending, are you getting it wrongly or you're getting the actual memo?
This is not the women empowerment.
This is a different one, right?
About.
Well, last on the back page, there's 7 more bodies retrieved from Volta Lake accident. I don't know if you heard about it last week, Thursday.
Yes, 20 people were feared dead.
About as well. Anyway, that's a wrap this morning on Ghanaian Times. Back to you, Daniel.
Daily Statesman, interesting front page stories. Let me begin with the one we all know. Places of worship reopen Friday. Places of worship begin with mosques. And then on Saturday, SDA churches, and then on Sunday, all other Christian churches that meet on Sunday, of course. Don't allow power to corrupt you with arrogance. Ewuku to politicians. Sami Ewuku speaking there. Now, on page 2 of the Daily Statesman newspaper, Professor Boche snubs Mahama running mate offer. Remember, we've been saying for a long time that Professor Kwesi Boche, who is the former finance minister for Ghana, is in pole position to partner John Mahama in the 2020 polls. all our sources within the NDC have been telling us this. The Daily Statesman is reporting that Professor Botchie does not want to run with John Mahama. Now, the other lead candidate was Dr. Kwabena Dufo,
yes,
who is owner of now defunct Unibank.
Yes.
So there are lots of questions around who it could be and if this is true at all. I'll tell you this, as soon as I saw this, I started reaching out to my contacts in the NDC to find out how true this could or could not be. I'm yet to get a response, but during the show, watch out. I'll just slip in a word of this one and try and get, some clarity on.
But, I mean, we are in June. Is it? But the running mate should have been announced by now, isn't it?
Oh, it was Corona. I understand that it should have actually been announced somewhere March, April, thereabouts, but because of Corona. Anyway, but it is June. Remember that by June, dear. We're all here, baby.
A lot of things are going to happen.
Here. All right, so in front of the Chronicles, harmful chemicals found in soaps in Ghana. FDA, Ghana Standard Authority, play blame game. Now, there's some brands that have been mentioned, and it's in page 378 respectively. I wouldn't want to be the one bearing the bad news, but there's some big brands that have been mentioned that there's a thorough investigation because their names have come up, that the harmful chemicals found in them. Ain't just that, you want to get the Chronicles and straight to page 8 and 9, boldly in the middle page as well. So Samini says he's never received any royalties in Ghana since 2004. Yep. And also, my divorce inspired my hit song Jimmy Tata. That's Stella Abasil, formerly known as Stella Abadugan. And you know, this woman has been in the news for some time because she recommends that men be allowed to marry more than one, though she's a Christian. She says that that's better than adultery. And
but it's not exactly a non-Christian thing. Polygamy is not exactly a non-Christian thing. If I remember the scripture correctly, God help
Preach
me.
on.
Paul said,
Amen.
if it were up to me, don't marry. But if you must marry, marry one, because
actually, if you must marry, the leaders of the church should marry one.
Yes. So how a lot of churches translate this is that if you're a polygamist, if you're married to more than one, you can't be a church leader, but you can be a Christian.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, so Wendy Shea features Bosom P. Young on her first Trump single. If you heard by now, Donald Trump also shares Ghana's pallbearers on his social media handles. Yes.
You guys have gone far.
You mean the by June, dear guys?
The by June, dear guys.
By June, no way.
That's just about it for the Chronicles as well.
All right, so now quickly moving to the Daily Guide. Now the front page is big stories here. Number one cash gang arrested. I'm making reference to Payboy, so they say here. I didn't say it, please. And opening for court today. As well, yeah. Today, yes.
By June, dear.
By June, dear. Things are going to really happen. And ignore warmongers, I beg your pardon, by Freddie Blay as well, with persons who've been, he says, saying that this coming election wouldn't be. There'll be a lot of unrest and war and all. Well,
because
he says,
of the EC's plans.
As well. Well, these are the main stories here as well. The back page is full of sport, but I'm sure our sports team, Fifi, would give us some more updates.
Okay.
All right then, so I guess that settles it. You have more news?
Well, yes, the Crusading Guide, real quick, he says King of Land Guards are busted. Now his people promise to bribe SWAT team for release as they go terrorizing citizens. Wow.
This Land Guards. Latif did a documentary.
Yeah.
He actually interviewed the Land Guards. It's called Land Wars.
I see.
Yeah, it's an eye-opening one.
We came to meet them and we'll leave them anyway. Well, that's the main story here in the New Crusading Guide as well. And don't forget that this show is probably brought to you by Fan Milk, and Fan Milk says call 0551 767676 and you can place an order if you're living in Accra, Kaswa, or in Tema. Will you go to church? 100 people allowed. Let us know. Hurry up, share your comments with us on Prime Mornings pages across Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We'd love to hear from you.
Okay, so a quick gentle reminder that if you're a man and you're having challenges with the urinal, if you're wearing catheter, yes, I know you've been expecting this announcement. The reason why I'm giving it to you. If you have double urinal, every urinal problem, we recommend to you Suzy Herbal Center's product, CB Men's Capsule, and also for the women, CB Women Capsule. And this is, like I always say, girl code, menstrual challenges. Why are you always looking at me
like
girl
code?
I just dropped from a magazine.
The girl code is *899 *776
# So this charge itches Amy challenges. We recommend CB Women Capsule for you as well. Now there's something that I call universal because it's a CB soap. Men can use it, women can use it for manicure and pedicure. Now the number to call is 0247 111 671 0247 111 671. Yeah.
Daniel.
Yes, so of course, if you're in the US and the UK, if you're in the US, please stay safe. Stay at home if you can. But if you're there and you want to listen to Joy FM Asempa, Adom or Hits FM, you can't catch it on Tuesday. We're really sorry. Go on myjoyonline.com or adomonline.com and catch all of multimedia groups, stations on that web portal. So that's it for the newsflash.
Are we allowed to go for a break?
Yes, we are.
Okay, when we come back, what's trending, sports, beyond the headline, and even the biggest interview. Stay with us.
Say you can saluna, what's a wonko, now so would shrinkwa. Say my quacosia, CB herbal soap. No one shall me now. One
19 a pie, and now say I had the insua. For CB herbal soap, so 19 any 9 room. Germany 10 minutes, and sana would the ebo and now say can't get to a reverend if you na kama. Shannon so say, yen fans rye 9 home, any young CB herbal soap, and 90 ma pro, a fee any encarboni.
Hey, Migo, yes. Okay, you CB herbal soap, a get to Mancasa. Come to me now. Hey, Susiana, Ghana money, Mamma Damasi.
FD Ashusha sa a jedi and crato imu adia to Muse a.
All right, so welcome back. You're still watching Prime Morning. Now time for us to do What's Trending. Well, today there's more for us to discuss on the show. And don't forget, you can send your comments to us. Just dial *899*76# and shoot to us as well. We are asking you that big question. So the president has partly lifted the ban on social gatherings for church services or religious activities. However, restrictions, 100 people. Would you still go to church? Talk to us this morning. Now, so in an address to the nation, President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo announced that only up to 100 worshippers can congregate in churches, mosques and other places of worship from the 5th of June, with services lasting for only 1 hour. We've got that video for you here. Let's hear from the president.
From Friday, 5th June, we will begin stage 1 of the process of easing restrictions. An abridged format for religious services can commence. 25% attendance with a maximum number of 100 congregants can worship at a time in church or at the mosque, with a mandatory 1 meter rule of social distancing between congregants. In addition to the mandatory wearing of masks for all persons at all times in churches and mosques, a register of names and contact details of all worshippers and hand-washing facilities and sanitizers must be provided, with a maximum duration of 1 hour for each service. Religious institutions that are desirous of opening their premises to their members, such as churches, mosques, and others, must disinfect, fumigate, and put in place the requisite logistics needed to guarantee safe opening and operationing. They must work with the designated regulatory bodies and undertake test runs of the protocols I have outlined.
Now, also on the subject of resuming for lessons, now the president stated that the decision has been taken after engagement with the teacher union to reopen schools and universities to allow for final year junior high, senior high and university students, including all final year students of educational and training institutions, now which are being managed by ministries other than the education ministry, to resume classes ahead of the conduct of their respective exit examinations.
15th June. The decision has been taken after engagement with the teacher unions, whose cooperation I salute, to reopen schools and universities to allow for final year junior high, senior high, and university students to resume classes ahead of the conduct of their respective exit examinations. Indeed, final year university students are to report to their universities on 15th June. Final year senior high school SHS3 students, together with SHS2 Go Track students, on 22nd June. And final year junior high school JHS3 students on 29th June. JHS3 classes will comprise a maximum of 30 students. SHS classes a maximum of 25 students. And university lectures will take place with half the class sizes. All final year students of educational and training institutions, which are being managed by ministries other than the education ministry, are to return to school on 15th June to complete their exit examinations.
Well, confidently and boldly spelt out there by His Excellency the President of Ghana. Now, he also added that Ghanaians stranded abroad since closure of the country's borders in March will be evacuated and subjected to mandatory quarantine. Now, that's great news coming for persons like Sarkodie and Tracy, who have clearly shown their disgust and their, challenges they are facing in the U.S. and asking the President to open the borders. I think this is great news coming to persons like them this morning. Now, let's move on. Now, in 2019, you do recall we had the year of return. Now, it was a big conversation in tourism for us right here in Ghana. Now, the Ministry of Tourism, however, Barbara Otenjesi has disclosed that the year of return Ghana 2019 celebration raked in $3.3 billion US. Now, she explained that the average expenditure per tourist was $2,391, which was spent in areas such as accommodation, food and beverages, shopping, local transport, and entertainment as well. Now, I'm very sure if you hear of any other exciting year celebrations coming on, you know what the areas that you want to put your money into, right? Well, boldly listed on there. Okay, so now at this point in time, before we'll also be going live into the U.S. to talk to a colleague and a friend about the current state of persons in the U.S., especially blacks, on how they feel about this whole issue of police brutality. But before that, though, real quickly, so Mr. Drew also reported for stealing Rotimi's song, which was a big trend over the weekend. Now, the highly spiritual signee, Mr. Drew, was a top trend over the weekend. Now, this comes after YouTube pulled down his music video for Eat, which featured Stonebwoy. Now, Eat is a sample version of Rotimi's Love Rhythm, and reports indicate that Mr. Drew didn't seek permission from Rotimi before sampling his work. Now, it is understood that Rotimi has received a DM on Instagram from a Ghanaian reporting the sample. Now, here's a video for you.
Imani official. Yeah. Routine. Okay, that's the chat. This kind that's the voice note you played.
Boss, someone has stolen your song in Ghana, the Love Rhythm. Check it out. Drew featuring Stonebwoy. And he changed the title. Eat. The title is Eat. The artist is Drew featuring Stonebwoy. Stonebwoy, one of the biggest artists in Ghana, so please check it out and take actions before it's too late.
Please can you scroll it, huh?
Well, yeah, this is called the PhD, so bring him down, right? A quick reporting made by someone. Quite interesting, funny, but also pretty serious. Anyway, let's move on to our next story now. Dancehall artist Samini held a virtual concert on Saturday from his residence in Canada. Now, the concert was streamed live on YouTube, and it was to entertain his fans and, amid this whole coronavirus pandemic. We've got a video for you.
Catch the vibe and don't let it go away. Oh, what a feeling. Catch the vibe and don't let it go away. It's a reggae feeling. Catch the vibe and don't let it go away. No. Oh, what a feeling. Sweet music play. Take me away. Far away. Oh, na na na. Sweet music play. Take me away, na na, far away. Oh, 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 yeah.
Fantastic performance there by Samini by all standards, and I know most of you are fans of Samini out there. Great music he's had all through his career. Now let's move on. Now, Sarkodie has also shared a rap freestyle of his daughter as he prepares her for the music world. Now, the rapper's daughter, Adeline Owusu-Addo, aka Titi, was trending #1 on Twitter after Sarkodie posted a video of her dropping some bars. Now, according to Sarkodie, Titi has worked on freestyle and he wouldn't release a full version because of some dreaded family secrets she rapped about. Here's the video.
Why are you rapping? You need to rap. What does that mean?
Very interesting over there, right? We love you, okay? So, Sarkodie, please keep encouraging her. For all you know, she might be the best world's female rapper coming soon, and we are in Ghana here to support her and make sure that happens. Let's move on to our next story real quickly now. Protests erupt for a sick day across the U.S. over death of unarmed black man, George Floyd, at the hands of police officers in Minneapolis. Now, more than 20 cities have imposed curfews, and National Guard members have been activated in 15 states and in in Washington, D.C. Now, the protesters say that they want to see charges for all 4 police officers involved in the death of Floyd. Now, let's go straight over to a colleague of mine as well, Prince Cheba, for a Ghanaian living in the U.S. He's a certified nurse assistant. He joins us via Zoom. Good morning, Prince. How are you doing?
Good morning, Jay.
It's great to have you. I mean, sorry we have to wake you up very early in the morning. I'm sure it's about 2 a.m. there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 2:40 a.m.
Well, anyway, let's just make this quick and snappy. So I want to ask you, what is the current feeling, among the black society in the U.S. with regards to what has happened with George Floyd?
I would say now it's about the rage against the furious, angry, and they're on the street. Some years ago we used to say that the revolution will not be televised, but now it's televised and it's on social media everywhere. So, and the good thing, people, the Caucasians, African Americans, Hispanics, Latinos, everybody's involved now, because in the past we used to think that it's only for the black community to fight against the police brutality.
Interesting.
So I'm glad that people are angry for the right reason, not for the bad reason. So we are all part of the movement now.
Angry for the right reason. Now, do these issues on police brutality make you nervous or anxious in any way, as you're living in the U.S.?
Oh, yeah. I mean, once that's happened to a person that you see the color, you know that there has become a systematic institutional racism and our people are dying. So you have to be nervous because you don't know whether it be the next time you will be the next, you go 6 feet under the ground. And there has been a pattern because every time you go out, for instance, in New York City, they used to have a program called Stop and Frisk.
Yes. Where
they used to stop, people of color. And it came out that there was racial profiling. About 90% of those who have been stopped, the drivers, they were black people.
Yes.
And 90% were black people and 70% were innocent. So how come you have a situation where police will stop you and it's like only one race is being targeted? 90% out of about 1,000 people, that's about 900 out of 1,000.
Wow, that's unfair.
They stop you and they search you and for nothing. And they came to realize that 70% were innocent. So everybody's nervous. Parents are nervous for their black teenage grown-ups, and so you don't know where you're going to meet your death, whether it's be on the driveway, whether on the sidewalk, or wherever.
I can imagine. Let me ask you, so lastly, in the interest of time, so would you say the U.S. is still that land of greener pastures and that holiday destination that we used to probably think of years back?
Nah. Now, even if you look at the visa lottery, people are not doing. The numbers are down, and the unemployment rate is high. About 40 million people are out of job due to part of the COVID. But normally, about 5 million are out of job. The jobs are no more there, and we have a global meltdown. So America is not like when we were back in school, when we were at mother school. Our parents will sell their houses or farms.
Interesting.
To America.
Yeah,
it's no longer there. So once you come, it's better to stay in Ghana and do some commercial farming and invest in Ghana than to stay here. We are already here. We are all planning that someday we will come back home and build the country.
Fantastic, Prince. Thank you so very much for joining me this morning. Now you can catch your rest as well. Well, that's me talking to Mr. Prince Cheba, for a certified nurse assistant, and he lives in the U.S. as well. And that's a wrap this morning on How I Was Trending. But before we go, we'll quickly check out the major trends on Twitter this morning as well. We've got quite a number of interesting trends coming on your screen right about now. Okay, so we're trying to get that also to happen real quickly. But yes, this issue on police brutality has sparked global outrage, and it's been reported that in the UK as well, there have been some march, and some persons going on protesting heavily on the way the white community or the policemen are treating the black persons. Now, this sparked a few trends on Twitter as well. We'll be taking a critical look at, and let me check with my team if I have my trends on my screen now. All right, so there you have it. As you can see, we have some trends on Twitter. Checking it out real quickly. This one here starts off with our very first trend. Some more comments coming on your screen in just a minute. Okay, all right, sure. So probably we'll move on this one in the interest of time, and we'll try and generate our trends for you as time comes on. But anyway, that's how our trends happened this morning on What's Trending. Real quickly, my name is Jay Foley. Now, let me go over to Fifi Anaman real quick. Fifi, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, Jay. How are you doing?
I'm great. Fifi, it's a big conversation with regards to Black Lives Matter. You know, this outrage sparked across the whole world with regards to what happened to George Floyd. Now, I don't know whether racism as well in sports. I know it's taking
it is huge. It is huge. Even this weekend, I was listening to an interview with Tony Yeboah, who played in Germany as well as England. And he was complaining that in the 90s, it was worse than it is today. And, you know, players have been dealing with it for a long time. But what I found really interesting about this whole saga happened, I think, about 48 hours ago, when an American comedian called Desi Banks tweeted a photo of the riot, saying that it's a crime, and then tweeted a photo of, you know, I think it was from the Martin Luther March in the 60s, that this is a proper protest. And he's African American, and he lost 500,000 Twitter followers.
Wow, instantly.
Yep.
Just like that. Anyway,
like that.
And that's a wrap this morning for me on What's Trending. Coming up next, Fifi takes us into the world of sports. Don't go away.
Good morning, it's time for the sport right here on Prime Morning. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Fifi Anaman. Now let's begin on this note. Now the man who was on SportsLink last Saturday has been praised by the man who was on SportsLink this Saturday. Samuel Sarkodie, speaking in an interview with Nathaniel Atto, says that he admires the captaincy of Stephen Appiah.
Stephen was a captain, but when we qualified for the World Cup 2006, he never did anything behind me. He always come to me and just, you know, when we have maybe a conversation with the people, all the players, they will leave it to me because they know that I know. So I just have a conversation with the people who bring their ideas.
He showed you
behind.
respect.
No, I mean, why not? Because I was there before he came, but I never even think about being a captain. Honestly, I never. Because for me, it's just a band. You show your leadership in the field of play. Let me give you a scenario here. 2014 Cup. Messi was a captain for Argentina, but you could see the inspiration and the thing that Mascherano was doing in the field of play. Messi wasn't doing that. It doesn't necessarily mean that Mascherano is not a leader. He is a leader in the field of play. Steven was a leader. I love the way he conducted himself in terms of leadership. But so far as he gave me a respect, coming to me all the time in my room, Charlie, Tuga, what are we going to do? What are you going to say? What are you? No, all of them, they know. And I never fight for myself. I do for the players. Because without the players, I cannot win. I cannot win alone. So we all come in as a team.
Staying on him, and by means of necessary digression, today is the birthday of GFA President Kurt Okreku, so we want to say a happy birthday to him. Now, still staying on Kurt Okreku and Samuel Sarkodie. Sarkodie has been speaking on the administration of Kurt since they took over in October last year.
I mean, for me, I think it's too short for us to judge him or to tell him.
You had short time at the NC and you rated 100%.
But listen. How long have you played in the game? The league is going on, right? If without any COVID, the league has been continuing to play. There, at the end of the season, then we can judge him. I cannot judge him now. I cannot judge him because what I'm seeing, what he's doing, I think he's doing an amazing job. But I will judge him after the season. Or if any team from the national team go to a tournament, then I can judge him. Because I cannot stand here and just say that he's doing a bad thing. No, what I've seen so far, and the team that he's putting in place with his committee, with his people, I think so far so good.
Last bit on Samuel Sarkodie. Now, do you remember that crisis, that leadership crisis that rocked the Black Stars ahead of the 2019 AFCON, when Asamoah Gyan was elevated to the controversial and ambiguous role of general captain and Andrea Ayew made substantive captain? Well, Samuel Sarkodie says all those things that happened were unnecessary.
A bit disturbing.
Okay.
For the NC, I was an NC member, and through our side to the coach, to the both players, you know, we need to come to a compromise and talk about the situation and so on. But I could see some people are hurt somewhere. You could see that Asamoah was really hurt about this whole situation. But how to manage the situation was the key. You know.
Do you think it's been managed well? Do you think he managed it well?
Well, even
the coach and the
it goes all the way to the president.
Okay.
So NC has become a limited. You understand? NC has nothing more to say about it. That's why the old man comes in and spoke to the two of the players, with the coach, and then the ministry. So it was a little bit, in my view, was a bit hectic. Why can't we wait till maybe we finish the tournament, then we change the captaincy? You have how many days to go, and then you change those things, and then you bring. Germany was just a chaos into the team. This one is happy, this one is not happy, this one is happy, this one is not happy. You know, do we need that at that time, whereby there's a 1 month to the tournament? You know, somebody may just say.
Now, our next story, coincidentally, is also a captaincy one. Now, the national team of Ghana, or then the Gold Coast, has been having captaincy issues forever. The earliest one, probably in 1951, during their tour of the UK. I'll be telling you about that probably in subsequent editions of the sport segment. But this one is from Anthony Yeboah, now who was the assistant captain at the 1992 AFCON in Senegal to Abedi Pele, who had replaced Kwesi Appiah. Now in the final, Anthony Yeboah was denied of the privilege of putting on the armband in favor of his friend and a man who he describes as a person he held hands into the Black Stars, Anthony Bafo. Listen to this one.
To be honest, I was very surprised. Okay. And at the same time, the Kumasi, as I'm saying, the Kumasi group was shocked. Okay. So it was affecting us during the game. Okay. You understand? So they know that I'm assistant captain. Okay. So assistant captain, when the captain is not there, who is the next? So my manager from Germany, he called Tony Bafo, because I brought Tony Bafo to come and play national team. Okay. I was advising him, and his mommy said, "No, Tony, if we live, you know." So I remember we came to Ghana, and the people call us Tony, Tony, you know.
The two Tonys.
Two Tonys, yeah. You know. So my manager called Tony Bafo and said, "Tony," because that time I was top form in German league, and you know I was captain in Frankfurt and all this thing, and so on and so forth. So my manager called him and said, "Tony, can you please tell your management to give the captain back to see?"
Even at that time?
Yeah.
So it is established that there was a captaincy row between the two Tonys as deputy captains of the Black Star. But how about the man who was a substantive captain of that team, Abedi Pele? Now, he was in an interview over the weekend on GTV, and he shed tears as an appearance was made by a man called Herbert Adika, who actually discovered him.
That time it was, you don't pay any money, but you try to attract him to your fold. And he never missed training. And you look at Avino and Domi, it was a distance at that time. So after training, when he heard the noise of the train, because the train passes through Dom, so he ran to Alajo to go and pick the train. Whenever he was late, then he has to sleep at Newtown. And he played for us for about 3 or 4 years. And he was doing wonders. There was no match that he didn't excel. He was too good that at the end of every match, he had donations from the spectators. These coins were flowing as if he was a master of the field. So we liked him so much. When we miss him in a match, then it means there was going to be a disaster. And I personally took interest in him because I was African Motors. Anytime he was playing in a school match, I have to run away from the office, go and watch him, and then come home. Surprise when in the year 1978, he was voted Player of the Year. And in that ceremonial match, it was so wonderful. I can remember as if it was yesterday.
I want you to hold on. I know, I'm telling you, I personally feel emotions because, like I said, Mr. Adika is the man who gave that the mind show that today we are all worshipping and celebrating the opportunity to play football. My show, Mr. Adika is here.
I'm short of words. I see him often. He comes to the house, he comes to the training grounds to see me. And I'm always very happy to see him. So.
This is so heartfelt and indeed heartwarming. Now, how many times do you even see Abedi Pele do an interview? And the first time he does it in many years, he actually goes on and sheds tears. Abedi Pele, the maestro. Now let's do our next story. Majid Ashimero, who's a Ghanaian midfielder, and his teammates at RB Salzburg have become the first team to win a trophy since the coronavirus restrictions were imposed and gradually eased. Red Bull Salzburg thumped Austria Lustenau 5-0 to win the Austrian Cup, but it was the mode of trophy celebrations that got the attention of the world. Have a look at it on your screen. Social distancing as they lift the trophy. I guess this is what Liverpool will be going through in a few weeks, probably a few days, because I mean, Liverpool are already champions if you think about it. So Majid Ashimero, congratulations to him and RB Salzburg as they socially distance and celebrate a trophy win. But do some results from the Bundesliga, which returned about 2 weeks ago from coronavirus restrictions. We'll do some results. Freiburg lost at home by 1 goal to Bayer Leverkusen. Hertha Berlin won at home by 2-0 against Augsburg. FC Mainz 05 lost at home to Hoffenheim by 1-0. Schalke 04 also lost at home by 1-0 to Werder Bremen. VF Wolfsburg were also in a home loss to Eintracht Frankfurt. So a very big day for away sides in the Bundesliga. Bayern Munich were in a 5-0 thumping of Fortuna Düsseldorf at home in Munich. Borussia Mönchengladbach were in a 4-1 win over Union Berlin. Paderborn FC were in a 1-6 loss to Borussia Dortmund. And of course, starring Jadon Sancho, who it is believed will be leaving the Westfalen soon. FC Köln were in also a game against Racing Salzburg Leipzig, I should say, RB Leipzig. Right, so thank you very much for joining us right here on the sports segment. But before I leave, a happy birthday to Honorable Hajia Frimpoma, who is a very beloved cousin of mine. Happy birthday to you, Hajia. We all love you very much. My name is Fifi Anaman. Up next, Beyond the Headlines with Daniel Dazi.
Bake it! It's original, you gotta take it. Macberry, 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 bake with love. Macberry, 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 original. Macberry, see we love it, everybody love it. Mama and Papa, them love it. Macberry, Macberry be the biscuit, you be the picking them secret. Macberry, Macberry be the biscuit, and they give everybody when they visit me. Macberry, originally baked with love. Macberry, 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 baked with love. Macberry, 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 original. Macberry, 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 baked with love. Macberry, 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 original. Macberry, originally baked with love.
This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
Introducing Cerelac Biscuity, the new baby cereal from Cerelac, with a great new biscuity taste that babies absolutely love. And of course, it's fortified with iron to support babies' healthy growth, just like all the other nutritious Cerelac flavors. Cerelac, big nutrition for small tummies.
Unlock banking with biometrics. Now, you can access the Absa mobile banking app using your fingerprint or facial recognition. Download today. That's Africanacity. That's APSA.
To all our emergency doctors, you never know who is walking through those doors, but you tend to everybody without fear.
The staff of the Gucci, Kolebu, KCCR, and all other testing centers. Where would we be without you?
We know some of you have been badly affected by this virus, yet you defy the fear of the unknown to fight against this virus on our behalf.
You have been awesome in these trying times. You put your lives on the line every day.
We feel safe because we know you are there. We really do appreciate you all. And what we can say at this moment is thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Akbenani, that's all we can say.
Joy Prime, Hits FM, and the Multimedia Group Limited says thank you. Ayiko. Yenda masalimu juma pa amoye. Frontliners, yema wanamo. We say thank you for the good things you are doing for our nation. Yema wanamo. We say thank you for the good things you are doing for our nation. Money, money,
Thanks for staying with us. This is still Prime Morning. We're going beyond the headlines. Today we're going with three very key guests. Kwame Sarkodie, who is a healthcare professional. He lives and works in the UK. Reverend Professor Paul Boafo, who is the presiding bishop of the Methodist Church, and he's also the president of the Christian Council of Ghana, and the information minister, Kojo Oponkroma. Our guests are joining us via Zoom this morning for us to go into detail and get some reactions on the president's easing of restrictions last night. So good morning. I believe I have Kwame Sarkodie and Reverend Boafo this morning.
Yes. Good morning. Good morning.
Yes, good morning to you as well, Mr. Oponkroma. Let me begin with you, Mr. Oponkroma. So the president sought to set us on a path to ease restrictions in churches and in schools. First of all, how soon are we getting details on the specific guidelines of the easing of the restrictions? Right, Mr. Oponkroma, maybe we are having some difficulty getting that connection through, but I wanted to know if it's today or tomorrow that we are going to understand, for instance, when WASI is going to be written by these final year students of SHS and BEC by JHS final year students.
Good morning, and good morning to your panelists out there. Throughout this week, we'll have various ministers of state joining us, each to outline what this means for their specific sector. Tonight at 7 p.m., we'll hold a special press briefing for the minister responsible for chieftaincy and religious affairs, who will give the full breakdown of what the easing of the restrictions mean for churches and other religious bodies, even after the president has outlined the key ones. Tomorrow morning, the minister responsible for education, the Honorable Matthew Poku-Prempeh, will also join us with an outline of what it means now that final year students are going to school to write their exams as well. And then in the coming days, other ministers will join us with their details as well.
So the president mentioned a specific cap on numbers for classrooms for those SHS and GHS students who will be returning to school. The question is, what if the school does not have enough infrastructure to seat 30 students per class and 25 students per class at these levels?
Well, we've already done the numbers, and we are clear in our minds that every school has the capacity to do that once the first and second years are not on campus and you are left with only the final year students who are writing their exams. you have enough accommodation across the schools in this country to allow for these seating arrangements to take place and ensure that our kids can get the benefit of the education they are looking for. So, for example, for junior high school grade classes, they will comprise a maximum of 30 students, senior high school class, a maximum of 25 students, and university lectures will take place with half the class sizes. And if all other students are off campus and the remaining ones are applying under the leadership of the school authorities, the necessary social distancing protocols, it is our expectation that every school will be able to accommodate these numbers.
And if there's a spillover, what's the contingency being put in place?
As I've mentioned, we have already done a very, very deep dive into the facilities across the schools. To the extent that Form 1s are not in, Form 2s are not in, it's only the final years. Those who exceed 25 or 30, depending on this particular case, will have to run multiple classes, as in we'll have to use other classrooms. But every school in this country has enough infrastructure. If Form 1s and Form 2s are not there, it's just Form 3s. They have enough infrastructure to allow the students, about 25 or 30, to be in other classrooms and observe the social distancing rules.
Will this require more teaching staff?
There are enough teaching staff in the schools currently who we believe are able to handle these numbers. If we look at junior high school numbers, for example, the numbers are such that the same teachers who teach, for example, Form 1, Form 2, Form 3, now if they are only handling Form 3, they are able to now spread out and provide the necessary kind of tuition that is required for them. The double track, particularly in the senior high school, also caused us to recruit some more teachers to augment the numbers that we used to have. So it is our understanding that currently we have enough teaching staff to handle the status quo that has now been announced. In the rare instance that we may require some augmentation, it is something that we'll not shy away from doing.
And I'll just plead with my other two guests to give me just a moment so that we wrap up. We understand that Mr. Oponkuma has a very heavy schedule today that we will be wrapping up with him. Mr. Oponkuma, so there are some concerns that have been raised, and we've been receiving messages all night about how there are some schools that may not have running water, may not have the sanitary facilities available, so that the strict hygiene protocols required to guard against COVID-19 will be applied.
So this also informs why the back to school announcement for final year students is not taking immediate effect. That is why we've given it a lag period up until I think the 15th of June, where final year students from the university are expected to go back onto campuses. We have about a 2-week period within which the Ghana Education Service and local authorities, the school institutions, are expected to make available the logistics that are required for this. Already under the leadership of the ministry responsible for education, they have submitted their numbers on what they require to be able to provide this. And within this 2-week period, for universities, first off, they are expected to have these logistics provided. You'll notice that senior high school, junior high school is further down the line. Some were up until the 22nd of June. And authorities are using this period to ensure that all of them are provided in good time before the final years are allowed to go back to do some semblance of academic work and write their examinations as has been advertised.
So how much is going to go into the bridging the gap that is required, since the numbers have already been submitted by the Education Ministry?
As I mentioned, the Minister responsible for education will join us on Tuesday morning. I'll leave those numbers to him to speak.
Right. On the issue of churches, what informed the 1 hour timeline, the deadline, that was given all churches to meet?
Yeah. So it's not just the 1 hour, it's the 1 hour wearing of the masks, the social distancing, and then also more importantly, the keeping of a database, whenever you have about 100 persons gathering. Why? Yeah. We are not interested in perpetually putting embargoes on all of these activities, including things like religious services, because they play a very important role in our lives as a people. So what is the risk? The risk is large numbers of persons gathering in an uncontrolled manner for long hours, not protected in any case. That is the risk. And as I've mentioned, on the other side, you're not interested in permanently closing these places. So what is the middle line that you can find? If you're going to say, for example, not more than 100 people, why? So that when they keep a database, should something happen, contact tracing becomes easy. That's one of the reasons for which you are being asked to keep a database when you have 100 people gathering for anything, be it church service or something else. Number two, we have guidelines for the wearing of masks, and we do not want people, at least by the science that we are taught, to be in masks for very long hours. What that means is that if these 100 persons are with social distancing and are wearing masks, they should not be in these masks continuously for over an hour. So if you're going to allow these services to take place, 100 people social distancing wearing masks, then that service must be an abridged service. That is how the guidance was arrived at. Right. If everybody is continuously wearing a mask, we should be able to do this. And I think that from 0 to 100 at this point in time is a good middle line for us. The president is of the view that allows us to have a bit of the services, but also ensure, most importantly, that we protect the people. By the way, we are not saying everybody is forced to go to church or to go to any of these activities.
Definitely.
Those who desire to do it, these are the protocols.
Yes, I was asking specifically about the timing, and and correct me if I'm wrong. What is the research that has informed the fact that if you meet for an hour, the risk is reduced?
Well, as I've explained, and I don't know if you were distracted at the time brief, everybody is supposed to be in a mask. There are guidelines for the wearing of masks. Drawing from those guidelines, it is not prudent to have people in these kind of activities or services wearing those masks for more than an hour. That is what informs this decision that the services must be abridged services. That does not cause people to wear these masks continuously for more than an hour. That is the thinking with which you come to the 1 hour abridged service.
Right. I may have missed that. Thank you very much, Mr. Ponkuma, for touching on that very briefly. Which task force is going to be enforcing this protocol, especially with the church?
So two things. Our churches have demonstrated a very high level of responsibility and compliance, and we must credit them with that. Right from the beginning, the religious community, churches and mosques have been very responsible, very supportive of the government efforts. Yes, there have been one or two deviants who have sought to go their own way. But the local security authorities at the district level has always been quick to find these persons and subject them to what the laws say. So the first level of responsibility is the churches. You will recall that our churches are some of the well-managed places. You have the head pastor, sometimes the church council or the council of elders, etc. The first level of shared responsibility is on them, to ensure that the proposals they brought forward, the kind of confidence that they have also demonstrated in what we've done so far, we in them, will come to bear in this initial level of self-regulation. But the second level is that for every one of these churches, they operate in a district assembly somewhere. The local authorities have been empowered to kick in place a monitoring system. And let me be very clear with this one, Daniel.
Right.
Any church, any organization that flouts these guidelines for gathering must know that they are backed by law, and if you flout them, your gathering will be shut down. And if you are in breach of these conditions, there are rules that will apply. You do know that already. There are some persons who sought to have church services, etc., devoid of the rules that have been put in place, and were convicted by the courts. And I must say that we are very serious about this. So the first level of responsibility is the churches themselves, but the second level of enforcement rests with the local security authorities, and if anybody is breaching, they'll move in and do the right thing.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ponkroma. But are these teachers of the schools, if I could just touch on that quickly before we go, are they going to be trained before we see the reopening? And what's that link we are going to establish between schools and healthcare facilities? Mr. Oponkuma, if Mr. Oponkuma is with us, we want to know about training of teachers and the link going to be established between the schools and the healthcare facilities in the event of a flash outbreak, as the President mentioned last night.
Already, there's been a lot of extensive work between the Ghana Health Service and the Ghana Education Service to ensure that the necessary synergies are built between every school that is mapped to a certain health infrastructure within the locality. Training or the final training of the staff on campuses will take place between now and about the 29th, when you expect, let's say, junior high school and senior high school students for the final year, let me emphasize, to be going for the purpose of writing their examination. So we have a bit of time to do those engagements. That's why they are not taking immediate effect. That's why we have a period for the training and orientation before they get on the ground.
Thank you very much, Kojo Oponkuma, for joining us this morning. He is Information Minister, and he was breaking down some of the easing of restrictions that the President announced last night. Let me go straight to Reverend Dr. Paul Boafo, President of the Christian Council of Ghana. Reverend Dr. Boafo, first of all, we thank you so much for your patience. We know that you had to stay on for a while. I'll take your initial comments on what you heard the President say there and the explanations you heard the Information Minister give there, after which I'll go to Mr. Sapoinsedu. Reverend.
Right. Thank you, and good morning. Good morning to your viewers as well. Yes, yesterday we were grateful to the government or to the President for easing the restrictions and then allowing churches to meet with a maximum of 100 congregants with all the protocols in place. And this morning too, I am happy the minister has given some clarifications on some of the points made by the President. When you look at what the President said, we had put forward our proposals even before he came. And that was part of our input to the main statements that were made. What we did not mention in our document, but later was mentioned at one of the register, which we also believe that it is also very good for all of us. And then where we are also having church services for 1 hour. That one too was not in our document, but we believe that since the lockdown, we have been having services on the national media, television and radio. Sometimes you are given less than an hour to finish your service, which I believe that if we are to go by the same, we would follow and make sure that services are short, snappy, and people can leave. And because it's going to be multiple services, you also don't want to keep members in for a long time to delay others. And I believe that these are all good plans for all of us.
So, Reverend, if the Methodist Church here in Accra has a service this Sunday and I show up, how are we going to control the numbers? I mean, if you have 500 people showing up, crowding outside the gates, how are we going to make sure that the social distancing protocols are applied and only 100 sits for service?
Yeah. With what the President said, we are yet to come out with the modalities for our congregations. I know that, just as you mentioned, in some congregations, there will be more than even 1,000. So we will come out very soon after meeting the minister. And then we will also stagger as to when and how members should come in. They should not just come and then congregate around the chapels. That one would even defeat the purpose for which we are coming and the social distancing. So we can say that from 6 to 7, would admit 100 people, and we'll make sure we'll come out with the modalities where people will know that, well, I would want to attend the afternoon service, I want to attend the Saturday service, I want to attend an evening service, so that we'll all observe the protocols and observe it well. And we also don't want to get crushed, because if you don't control these things, people might just walk in and then become uncontrollable. So all these things will be taken into account within the week. From today to Saturday, we would come out with modalities for all our congregations throughout Ghana. And I know that the heads of churches are also going to meet within the week, and then we'll firm up how these things are going to be done so that we don't breach any of these guidelines given to us.
If you heard the information minister speak there, a lot of responsibility is being placed on the churches to ensure that the right thing is done. As a Christian Council of Ghana, what regulatory measures would you be supporting with? For instance, are you going to penalize members who do not go according to these protocols?
Well, to penalize, we don't have that mandate to penalize, but the bodies that have the mandate, like the law enforcing agencies, they will also be part, because you heard the minister saying that the first responsibility is on us to observe and to make sure that we are going by the guidelines or the protocols. But if any of us breach it, then that is where the law enforcing agencies would also come in and make sure that you comply. But we will speak to our heads, we will speak to our leaders, we will speak to our pastors, we will speak to our church leaders that they should comply, because these are the safeguarding principles for all of us, so that we can go to phase 2. Because if we can't even follow these ones, then it means that we can't go on to phase 2.
Right.
And so I ask that we would all comply. For the churches, we will be meeting. After meeting the minister, we will meet on our own and then firm up these guidelines so that we can all comply to it.
On a lighter note, Reverend, if the Holy Spirit is moving and we are getting close to the 1 hour mark, what do we do?
I know that the Holy Spirit is also a man of order, and it's not just doing things wantonly. So once it is 1 hour service, you make sure that you will not prolong and go beyond the 1 hour. Yes, for that one, we will make sure that we go by it, and it is all for our good. The Holy Spirit brings life, and it does not come to kill us, and that is why I believe that is how we should go.
I'd like that you stay on with us for just a few more moments, because Kwame Sapon-Siedu is coming in as our health expert here to give us some insight on what we must be doing. Kwame, first of all, thank you very much. You were our first guest, but we wanted you to get a perspective of what government is doing and what the churches are planning as well, so that you can come with a more informed analysis of our current situation. Having heard all that you've heard, are we on the right footing?
Well, I'll set a premise here that considering that we are in the midst of a pandemic, you always want to look at the things that will keep your citizens safe. And so you want to decrease the interaction amongst the citizenry, because we know that there's considerable human-to-human transmission and the opportunity for any interaction to lead to an infection. So on this basis, to decrease the interactions, you go by social distancing, you go by avoidance of crowds, so you're spacing the people out. You go by limiting the numbers, so we are talking about 100 people. You also go by ensuring that the interaction between different sections of the church, for example, do not cause there to be an aggregation of people outside the premise. So the 100 are coming in, 100 are coming out, and it becomes difficult to control. So with all those modalities, that is very, very commendable. Then you look at the other thing, which is the probability of any of these interactions becoming a situation whereby an infected person transmits the infection to another person. Truth of the matter is, in a pandemic, you've got to treat everyone else as though they've got the disease, because you never know who has and has not got the disease. And therefore, you want to limit these interactions as much as possible. So to decrease the probability, they've restricted the timing. And that is why the 1 hour is instructed on two fronts. It's instructive in the sense that it decreases the likelihood, like the Minister of Information said, for people to inhale their own carbon dioxide and probably get unwell, not from the virus, but from carbon dioxide inhalation.
Okay.
It also decreases the period with which people, albeit social distance, are interacting, and therefore decreases the likelihood, if there is someone who's infected, for that infection to be transferred to anyone in the congregation. Then there's the whole issue is, should these be breached, there is a log of anyone who was in over that 1 hour period who can be easily traced. So from a clinical standpoint, if you look at all those, then there's quite a robust audit trail to ensure that should anything go haywire, it can be addressed. But even with all that in place, if you listen to the president, he was clear to say that there's still the risk that our case count would go up and there would be hotspots. Why? Because not everyone, even for those who would comply with the 100 with social distancing, not everyone would wear their masks properly. Not everyone would realize simple things like you don't touch the front of your mask, because if the virus is deposited on there, you contaminate your hand. People may not use their disinfectants. People may not wash their hands. So still, there is a possibility of our infection numbers going up. The question for me is, at what point are we prepared to pull back? And at what point, if these infections do not go up, are we prepared to go to stage 2? That also has to be scientifically informed.
Okay, so you've given us quite a clear picture for the rationale behind this, but where you ended is where I really want us to continue from, because basically what you're saying is we are not out of the woods yet. We could still see higher numbers. If you're going to see higher numbers, why ease restrictions?
You see, the point is that, Daniel, we cannot stay under lockdown forever. And if you look at our current case count of 8,070, it tells you that less than 1% of our population is infected with the coronavirus. If you then look at our positive test percentage over the period, which is just under 4%, it tells you that even if you use that to make an estimate for unaccounted infections, because perhaps we are not testing as much as we could, because there are financial constraints to all this, you could say that about 96% of our population is not infected. This then means that for a pathogen like the coronavirus, the novel coronavirus, which has shown so much virulence and ability to transmit, there's a high susceptible population which it can easily run through if checks are not put in place. But having said that, the president also has to trade off the economic implications, the social implications, the socio-economic implications, the mental health implications, because being in a lockdown, being in an artificially segregated situation is not mentally a thing to do for a long period of time.
Right.
So we have to trade all these things against each other. You even have to trade the security implications. More importantly, you have to trade the behavioral implications. Before we got to this point, have people been complying with the behavioral norms, the etiquettes, the hand washing, wearing of face masks, not avoidance of, have they been complying that way? For me, that is where our biggest challenge is, because we see the intransigence with which people do not comply to these things.
Right.
And how we enforce compliance would be the rate limiting step, to answer your question. And I think that ultimately, yes, the Minister of Information has said that the honors rest with the church. And the second tier would be with the security agencies and the district authorities. But I think ultimately, the biggest responsibility rests with the Ghanaian. You need to know that you are the one who could get infected. You need to know that you are the one who could get very unwell. And you need to take your personal protection into your own hands. So I believe there should be a lot more peer enforcement as well. If you see a colleague who's not complying, the onus lies on you to draw their attention to it. That would be an enabler for me.
Okay, Kwame, just a moment for us, please. We've been joined on the phone line by Dr. Samuel Nkumban. He's the president of the University Teachers Association of Ghana, University of Ghana campus. Dr. Nkumban, thank you very much for joining us this morning. So what's your reaction to this move by the president?
Well, generally, I should think that once it's a countrywide directive and we are party to that, we just have to comply. But of course, we have to get to our management to fine-tune how we receive the final year students and how we manage their stay and teaching until we are able to end the semester. Fortunately, University of Ghana, because we rolled out the online teaching system, despite the challenges, many of the faculty members must have finished their syllabus for the semester. And so one of the key concerns had to do with the fact that students' project work, as well as those that have to have done some laboratory work and so on and so forth, was going to be hindered by the fact that we were operating the online system and those elements were not possible. Also, for example, that theater art students who had to participate in productions and all of that. And so for them to come and for us to have interaction with them in doing some of those elements certainly is a good thing. And it was something that faculty members were recommending earlier.
Okay.
And so I just think that if it's only the final year students, then of course the University of Ghana is big enough to accommodate them and to be able to observe the necessary protocols. We also, of course, we also know, of course, that university students, they ought to be matured and they ought to be concerned about their health, and we take some of the precautionary measures that the university would put in place seriously, and we shouldn't have any challenge.
Right. So we know that classes have been going on online across board, and so international students have had no challenges at all plugging in. But now that students have to physically come to the schools and the borders haven't been opened yet, what happens to these international students?
Well, of course, the university had already put in place processes for us to even be able to take exams online. Whatever it was going to be, if we were to do the exams online beginning this June and ending sometime next month, the trouble would still have been that they would have finished the semester but can still leave because of the borders are closed. And so, fortunately, many of them are still on campus. It's just their colleagues joining them. That is why we need to fine-tune the management, whether or not those other levels that are left, we are going to maintain the online system and take the exams online, or that we will have to hold on to that. Those details, we will have to engage with management to see how we sort that out. But certainly, if we are going to proceed and do the exams online, then the foreign students as well are part of that. And they will also take the exams online. Unfortunately, if the borders are not open, the university will have to make arrangements to keep them a little longer.
Dr. Nkumban, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
I'll take the final word on this from Kwame Sarkodie before we wrap up beyond the headlines for today. So, any word of advice for these educational authorities who are welcoming the students back? What should they be looking out for?
Well, basically, everyone has to be proactive. They need to be looking out for the normal innate social behaviors that we all tend to show. Under normal circumstances, our default is to aggregate, our default is to have a conversation, our default is, for example, for students, their default is if I have a challenge, I'll go and see a colleague of mine to try and explain it to me and all those things. These things would have to be quickly broken down. They need to realize that these are not normal human instinctive behaviors. They are behaviors that have been compelled on us by this pathway. And therefore, they need to always be proactive. They need to look at the challenges that would come, for example, in the dining area, in the classrooms, and all those things. And also look at sanitation, because that would be key in the dormitories, and sanitation in places like the washrooms and loos, because those would be the solid surfaces. We all always have to bear in mind that this microorganism can survive on solid surfaces for up to 72 hours. So it just takes one person to go and deposit a bit of viral load for someone to go and touch it and not wash their hands properly and for there to be an outbreak in the school. Okay. So it's proactivity.
Right, thank you very much, Kwame Sapan-Sedu, for joining us. Proactivity is the watchword there. Before we end the segments, let's take a few comments that you sent us on social media on the Joy Prime Facebook page. We have your comments here with us. Amable Ernest says, well, I agree to some extent our infrastructure in SHS is inadequate. Having Form 3 and 2 Gold on campus is going to pose a big challenge for us teachers in the various SHS. Well, Amable Ernest, we understand that it's going to be a Form 3 only who are coming. Sewa Ampafo Bracket 2 says, church service, main pastor 1, associate pastors 4, 10 ushers, 7 instrumentalists, 13 choir members, 30 women's fellowship members, 18 men's fellowship members, 15 youth fellowship, 2 first-time visitors, 100 members. You gave a breakdown there. Jermaine Cole replied there. Musa Bill Gates Selassie says, no, this is a pure step in destruction. These pastors shouldn't give the old man pressure to open churches. I'm sure by old man you're referring to the presidents there. Queen Ajansuma Samad says, we are matured to decide whether to follow it. For me, a very big no. Life is one. Oting Richard says, we can't change anything, can we? And Virgin Che Mensa Chelsea says, watching you well, watching you live from Makro Kerry. Bright Okanta has no problem. Jermaine Cole has a question about 2017 batch of allied health professionals. Let's take a couple more comments before we wrap up. Talking business is up next. We'll just go through a few more of your comments. These were left on our Facebook page on Joy Prime, the Joy Prime Facebook page. I think that's all we have time for. Inshura Ado is coming your way next with Talking Business. Stay with us.
Fellow Ghanaians, with effect from Friday, 5th June, we will begin stage 1 of the process of easing restrictions. An abridged format for religious services can commence. 25% attendance with a maximum number of 100 congregants can worship at a time in church or at the mosque with a mandatory 1 meter rule of social distancing between congregants. In addition to the mandatory wearing of masks for all persons at all times in churches and mosques, a register of names and contact details of all worshippers and hand-washing facilities and sanitizers must be provided with a maximum duration of 1 hour for each service. Religious institutions that are desirous of opening their premises to their members, such as churches, mosques, and others, must disinfect, fumigate, and put in place the requisite logistics needed to guarantee safe opening and operationing. They must work with the designated regulatory bodies and undertake test runs of the protocols I have outlined. I would appeal to them, in the case of Christians, on the first Sunday of reopening, i.e. 7th June. In the case of the Adventists, Saturday, 6th June. And in the case of Muslims, on the first Friday, i.e. Salat al-Jum'ah, on 5th June, to dedicate their worship to prayers for the nation in these challenging times. The Minister for Religious Affairs will tomorrow, Monday, 1st June, outline in detail the specific guidelines for the safe reopening of our churches and mosques.
Break it! It's original, you gotta take it. Macberry, 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 bake with love. Macberry, 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 original. Macberry, see we love it, everybody love it. Mama, papa, them love it. Macberry, Macberry be the biscuit, you be the picking them secret. Macberry, Macberry be the biscuit, and they give baked with love.
This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
Introducing Cerelac Biscuity, the new baby cereal from Cerelac, with a great new biscuity taste that babies absolutely love. And of course, it's fortified with iron to support babies' healthy growth, just like all the other nutritious Cerelac flavors. Cerelac, big nutrition for small tummies.
Unlock banking with biometrics. Now, you can access the ABSA mobile banking app using your fingerprint or facial recognition. Download today. That's Africanacity. That's ABSA.
To all our emergency doctors, you never know who is walking through those doors, but you tend to everybody without fear.
The staff of Noguchi, Kolebu, KCCR, and all other testing centers. Where would we be without you?
We know some of you have been badly affected by this virus, yet you defy the fear of the unknown to fight against this virus on our behalf.
You have been awesome in these trying times. You put your lives on the line every day.
We feel safe because we know you are there. We really, really do appreciate you all. And what we can say at this moment is thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Akbenani, that's all we can say.
Yeah, welcome back to Prime Morning, and this is Talking Business with me and Shira Ado. Now, the COVID-19 pandemic has turned the entire world upside down. Economies are just on their last legs, but there's a way that insurance, who would have thought, is potentially something that can help. Now, quite often we think of insurance as that buffer in case something goes wrong. Today, we're joined on the show by the Chief Financial Officer of Prudential Life, and in the person of Cherise Ige. And we'll be talking about insurance and how you can actually create wealth by using insurance. We went out, spoke to a few people to try and get a sense of whether Ghanaians like, understand, or even participate in the insurance sector. Here you are.
Personal insurance because I don't believe in it.
Personal insurance because my name baby I no and nothing I mean but me been so and come oh dear ayo mo kekani na me nim say although say bi kwa we government work na okọ pension a obenya bibi kakra odibedidi ba ye na ye modwa no ye nim say personal insurance bi o kra ubetumi aye bi awon so no ebe benefit o enuntia
the entia me ye ne say in case say me yale ana say me pla empafuru mu a meti bi dey akọ hospital enunti na ma me ye health
insurance. I have the GCB insurance for my dad and mom, myself. It's good to have insurance because one day you don't know what will happen to you one day, and if you're a student, you have to do the student insurance because it really helps a lot. You don't know when your mom and dad is going to die or something like that. So what I'm having.
I don't have personal insurance because I don't believe.
Welcome to Prime Morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
And so you've been in insurance for quite a while, and I'd like to borrow your expertise to help appreciate the importance of insurance within economic development. Now, anytime I hear insurance, I'm only thinking, okay, I need to pay some money so that in the event I have an accident with my car, then I can make a claim on that. But insurance goes beyond that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Insurance takes on many forms. It can come in the form of general insurance, which would cover your car, home, etc., contents. But there's also life insurance. And that's the one which I believe is very, very important, not just for us as Ghanaians, but for people in the world as a whole. And we can go through that as and when you feel today.
Right. Why is life insurance so important?
So life insurance is a protection against the certainty of death. Let's call it loss of life.
Okay.
And for me, if something is certainly going to happen,
Mm-hmm.
then that means that you should do something to protect yourself
Okay.
against that. Now, life insurance, you can get a lump sum payment. It's
Mhm.
a contract between the insurer and the policyholder,
Mhm.
which guarantees a lump sum payment to a beneficiary.
Okay. I'm going to pause for a moment. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to be joined by Edgar Redu, who is a marketing, an insurance marketer, so we can have this conversation with a lot more perspective. So we'll be right back.
Thank you.
Bake it. It's original, you gotta take it. Macberry, 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 bake with love. Macberry, 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 original. Macberry, see we love it, everybody love it. Mama and Papa, them love it. Macberry, Macberry be the biscuit, even be the picking them secret. Macberry, Macberry be the biscuit, and they give everybody when they visit me. Macberry, originally baked with love. Macberry, 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 baked with love. Macberry, 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 original. Macberry, 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 baked with love. Macberry, 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 original. Macberry, originally baked with love.
This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
Introducing Cerelac Biscuity, the new baby cereal from Cerelac, with a great new biscuity taste that babies absolutely love. And of course, it's fortified with iron to support babies' healthy growth, just like all the other nutritious Cerelac flavors. Cerelac, big nutrition for small tummies.
Unlock banking with biometrics. Now, you can access the ABSA mobile banking app using your fingerprint or facial recognition. Download today. That's Africanacity. That's ABSA.
To all our emergency doctors, you never know who is walking through those doors, but you tend to everybody without fear.
The staff of the Gucci, Kolebu, KCCR, and all other testing centers. Where would we be without you?
We know some of you have been badly affected by this virus, yet you defy the fear of the unknown to fight against this virus on our behalf.
You have been awesome in these trying times. You put your lives on the line every day.
We feel safe because we know you are there. We really, really do appreciate you all. And what we can say at this moment is thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Akbenami, that's all we can say.
No one, no training, no amount of preparation. We feel safe because we know you are there. Thank you, all our frontline health workers.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Welcome back, and I have just had to mask because there's now 3 of us sitting together, and we need to ensure we're socially distancing as well as, protecting ourselves in these times. Now, just before Edgar joined us, we were having this conversation around why insurance is important, especially life insurance. But I would like us to look at the general concept of insurance and its place in wealth creation. How important is that from the life perspective?
It is very important from my perspective, because I can see that that is a way in which the West has utilized insurance in order to create wealth. What do I mean by that? In a very short explanation, is that if someone from their family dies, what they will do is get a lump sum payment of insurance that can be utilized to benefit them during the funeral, but there's also an excess left over to then distribute amongst family. What happens in Ghana and traditionally African nations is that once somebody passes away, the money that they require is brought from every single family member, and that is decreasing wealth. Every time someone passes away, you decrease your wealth. And rather than giving you a lump sum payment that can increase that wealth, we're rather reducing it, and it's a cycle that continues and continues. So I think it is we need to educate the youth in order to understand that life insurance can be utilized not only to alleviate stress, but also increase wealth.
That's quite interesting. Now, there's also this concept that insurance does have an impact on an economy beyond the insured. You look at the world over, some of the largest sporting arenas sometimes are named after insurance companies whose contribution or the payment they pay for the brand association actually offsets the cost of building those infrastructure. Edgar, why are we not seeing that kind of impetus from the insurance sector here in Ghana?
Well, I think the first part of your question was quite good, but the second part a little bit controversial, actually.
Really?
You see, it's not like you're not seeing that from the insurance sector, right? But what is important is that the economy, you see, the economy has what we call, one, as my sister mentioned, the benefits to the individual, right? The other aspect is that financial loss, which puts you back in the same position you enjoyed. And then the pool itself becomes an investment pool. You see, because you're pulling all the resources together. In fact, one of the things that was happening some time back from the life section was such that government could even borrow from the life funds, okay, to do developments. And as a result of government borrowing from the life funds, right, life policy holders were given certain tax rebates. If you had a life policy, you had some tax rebates on your total earnings and what have you. So the longer that pool is running, that is where what you are asking comes in. Because you see, you can use those funds, because don't forget that the insurance company also invests the monies.
Exactly.
So that investment could be in the areas that you're talking about. Okay? So that by providing that facility, it becomes a business avenue, because the sports stadium is not for free.
That's right.
Anyone who works in there pays, and is adding to the investment portfolio of the company and the economy as a whole. You get it?
So beyond doing those things and also spending on things like municipal bonds, which is what a lot of the large insurance companies do globally, there's a direct benefit to the people. But in Ghana, where we only have, I think, a penetration of under 2%.
Yeah, 1%.
1%. I'd like to look at, from my perspective, it means we have 99% to work towards, untapped. Now, what would you say would be the impact on our economy if we were to get this right and grow that number?
It's infinite. It's infinite. That untapped 99%, 98 to 99%, would give so much benefits, not just to the insurance company, but like you say, to the economy as a whole. Because that pool of investment can be utilized in so many ways to help the industry, to help the economy, to help everything grow successfully.
Wow. Edgar?
Well, one of the things you got to look at is this. I have always had the problem with our consistent failure to develop our thinking and reasoning and always basing it on some kind of system that the white man has created. Let me tell you something today. You're telling me that the insurance penetration is 1%, and it is based on the total accumulation of GDP. So you are not looking at the real figure as it stands. Now, today, oil prices are falling. And as oil prices are falling, it's going to have an effect on your GDP. If insurance premiums stay even where they are, it will tell you that the penetration has gone up. You see? So I'm not so much fascinated with this white man's way of people doing this kind of things. I expect a more practical and proactive approach towards these things. Because one of the things you got to know is that it is not like as if it is a big pool that so many people come in. After all, how many people are employed in this system? What is employment rate in this country? If state tells you that they have just about 1 million people paying social security, are you going to say, so what is happening to the remaining 29 million Ghanaians? It hasn't worked that way. You get it? The other aspect is that if you say it is low, are you asking us to increase the premiums or what, to make it look good? Certainly not. One of the things you must appreciate is that insurance, as much as it's important, is dependent on disposable income, which at the end of the day falls down to discretionary income. So it is your discretionary income that gives you that bit. So that is one of the things you got to look at. One area is that, yes, maybe we could increase it, but that one is the area that the likes of me come in. So as a marketer in that direction, right, ours is now to identify what insurer needs, create it using the marketing mix and all that thing, and then present it to you. Not the traditional way of doing things.
Well, I think you're right on that, because recently there's this increased in increment in the number of innovative products, if I could call it that. You have all kinds of stuff. I mean, first we had the funeral policies, now there's educational policies that allow you to contribute all the way to look after your kids to university, all kinds of things. But there's an aspect of insurance that the world over has been like the crutch on which a lot of people are leaning on now. So with COVID-19, globally there's a whole lot of job losses. In Ghana, we're talking about already losing $170 million in the tourism subsector alone. It has a attendant effect and impact on the people who work in that sector. Now, how could insurance have mitigated the burden on the people who would have lost their jobs?
Exactly. So insurance is a protection tool, like I said. It's basically a risk management tool. And so if you had a certain type of insurance that could protect you against those risks, then you could be okay to sit back at home. If you had an insurance that, despite you losing your job, would continue to pay, premiums to you, or pay some lump sum assurance to you that would guarantee an income throughout those times, then that's how it can help. And so insurance is a tool that can be utilized no matter what to try and navigate or to streamline those risks. In saying about innovation, I like that you said that you have to make the products streamlined to the environment that you operate in. And that is something that Prudential Life that I work at, they do that. And we're the market leaders in product innovation. But also what we've done during the COVID period is to launch a free COVID-19 product, which means that each person who have a life insurance policy with us, which is an existing customer, and any new customer that comes in benefits from a free COVID-19 benefit, which basically will give you a lump sum free of charge if you have a diagnosis. It will give you a lump sum free of charge if you need to stay in the hospital, and it will also give you a lump sum upon the unfortunate case of losing your life. So these are things that insurers can do to make the burden or the stress that you feel a bit less during extreme times, especially like this.
Wow. Edgar, you are the extreme neutral in this mix, because as a marketer, you've seen the evolution of the insurance sector in Ghana. Are you hopeful that we can grow the numbers? And what would it take?
You see, what happens is this, that to the question you asked earlier, there is something known as unemployment insurance. Now, this unemployment insurance, so as you talked about the tourism industry, the aviation, the hotels, event planners, cake makers, you know, all those human beings.
Yeah.
Maybe now the president says that something can happen. That from the 30th of March to date, that we had to go on the lockdown, their businesses went down. Now, what is unemployment insurance? That is it. No matter how long you go, normally for about a 6 months period, you will be getting about half your salary.
Remuneration.
You'll be getting about half of your salary. The whole concept is that it is believed that within 6 months we should be able to, you know, stem the tide, see whatever it is like, weather the storm, and then we can make some kind of progress. We can stretch it to another 3 months, and then that one you get about a third of your income. But you know the funny thing? The funny thing is this, that this kind of monies is what the fund managers of the Pension Act, the Tier 2 pension scheme, this is what they should be using those monies for. Because when you take the monies from the people's salary, because the Tier 1 is the normal slate pension. Now the Tier 2 and Tier 3, you are supposed to put those monies into investment. In fact, the Pensions Act makes a provision for that. And I think I was even talking to one of the Alliance guys. And I said, look, there's a provision in here. Why don't you guys take advantage? Now, one of the funny things is that, you see, well, every young guy coming up has a dream of owning a property, a building at the end of the day. This is where you can begin to provide them with that designed product of a life insurance. And that life insurance will help assist in the securing of mortgage loans, okay? While they can go on and then, you know, build up and do whatever they want to do. Aside that, you get the mortgage protection too. So it means that you are secured. So the problem you have here is that the fund managers, those trustees of the Tier 2, Tier 3 pension, it is now for them to see how best they can utilize these monies for the benefit of their beneficiaries. Your failure to think in that direction will definitely create problems because we've seen it. Now, if they had created that unemployment benefit, most of these guys that you're talking about today would not be suffering. Because the insurance companies will be paying you on a monthly basis half your income.
And that's better than zero.
It's better than zero.
Exactly.
You see, so it is more, that's what I'm saying. See, the problem we have is just being creative, looking at what is happening and begin to develop, oh, what do I see here? I see a problem here, right? Because as risk bearers, it's very easy for us to identify those things. Because that's the job we do. So it's very easy to identify, oh, I see a risk here, I see this here, I see here. But then the decision makers, for them to appreciate some of these things. So it's a two-way thing. Maybe we as insurers are not doing our work well, okay? They, on the other side too, are not also coming in to understand some of these things. So I believe that, yes, it's about time we probably made a lot of exposés on some of these things so that they got to, you know, see. But as I said, you see, the bottom line is monies that are dependent on discretionary income. You see, because the discretionary income, having paid your income tax, your social security and all those things, now that is money left for you to spend.
And then you can then
now before you got to look at the, how maybe on monthly basis you got to go to market, how much you're going to spend on feeding the home, your prepaid, your water bill, your fuel up and down, your savings. You know, it's discretionary money that you want to use for traveling and all that.
For a country that is developing, which means that we probably don't have lots of people with discretionary income, how does insurance organizations like yours provide services or products that people who are probably below a certain level of the income bracket can access and be able to contribute to?
Yeah, so like he said, you have to build products around the people around you, around the environment around you. So you can build products specifically for those types of individuals to fall into the range of their kind of affordability. And that is how we can assist. We can streamline that, notice what the need is, guarantee the risk, and then build that product to suit those people. And so insurance companies, we're constantly evolving, constantly creating new products to ensure that it matches the needs of our environments. That is why if you go to Asia, you go to the UK, you might not find the same exact product that you'll find in Ghana because it's supposed to be specific to the needs of the people in Ghana.
Okay, that's wonderful. Well, I'm going to take final words from you. Edgar, I would like a quick answer to this. Will the insurance industry in Ghana grow and make the positive impact on our GDP?
If you have the right leadership.
You're premising it on leadership?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Cherise, in your case, where do you see the insurance industry, say, 5 years from now?
5 years from now, I am hoping that we can tap into 2% or higher. In terms of growth, because the thing about insurance is that it takes education. If you look at a number of people that you spoke to today, they say, I don't believe in insurance. That's probably because they're not educated about the benefits on insurance. So I think we need to reignite that education to make people aware that this is something that you need to have, you should have, and it can benefit you and move you up the wealth scale as you do so. So the re-education of the masses is what will create that generation.
Thank you. And on that note of education, I'll share my own experience. I had an unfortunate accident 6 years ago, and my car was completely totaled. Now, guess what? I got 90% of the value of the car back, and that helped me buy the next car that I drove. And that's because I bought an insurance policy. I think it was a comprehensive insurance policy on that particular vehicle of mine. So insurance does save you money, because if I didn't do that, I needed to have then spent money to buy a new vehicle, which would really have cost me and set me back financially. As we end this, I'd like to share with you my business word for the day, and the word today is future. The past is already gone. The present you are dealing with and preoccupied by. But the future is the one variable that you have a lot of control over. With planning, with hope, and with a lot of diligence, you will be able to change that future and make it what you intend for it to be. So the decisions you make about the future in the present are critical. Go forward, make rain, and we'll see you again. This has been Talking Business with me, Shirado. Coming up next is the big interview. Daniel will be talking to the spokesperson of the Africa CDC about COVID-19 and whether we are staying ahead of that virus. Stay tuned for more.
What did you dear? Mary Medro CB Men's Capsules. And you may use Madama Bohobio CB Men's Capsules by dear. What 2 points?
I don't know. You're very good. Said I'm a dan, I'm a swam and two intent and using it. He said, we need you some way Arabia house to be credible.
Said to say, my yes, you dear CB Women's Capsules. A year if it's a woman in whom fee and so. Hey!
CB Women's Capsules with the Ajo.
Also, CB Men's Capsules, Ajo.
Susiana.
Ghana man, Merman Damase.
Our pharmacy, chemical, ni herbal shops ni name. Et to form Fresh Susie Herbal Center 0247 111671 and 0246 578750. CB Men and Women Capsules.
This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
Life sometimes presents us with unexpected situations, like in the event of a fire outbreak. It takes less than 20 minutes to move from this to this. Timing is everything. Dialing 112 in the event of an emergency gives you direct access to the Ghana National Fire Service with a guarantee of the fastest response time. And now with the National Digital Property Addressing System, be rest assured that we can locate you directly at your point of call. So never hesitate to call in the event of a fire emergency. Dial 112. 112. Help will come. 112. We are safe. Avoid prank calling as it can lead to loss of life of persons in actual need of help.
It's live on Prime Morning. Thanks for staying with us. Today we are switching things up a bit on the big interview because we have three, not one, not two, but three amazing guests that we will be hearing from. Very shortly, we'll go to Dr. Benjamin Judalbai, who is head of communications at Africa CDC. But our first guest is the man to speak to and the man to hear from if you want to know about reopening of schools. Dr. Yao Educhum is Deputy Education Minister and Member of Parliament for Posomtwe. Good morning, Dr. Educhum. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, my brother. How are you?
Doing very well. Doing very well. Yourself?
Great.
So yesterday, the president made his big announcement from the policy formulation and implementation side. Dr. Educhum, what informed this decision?
Of course, I just want to say a very good morning to your viewing audience and listening audience, and to just let you know that the president's philosophy of leadership in this crisis has been very simple to me. That is, protect life first, and then do all other things second. And I think in coming out of this policy, of course, you could see that he's given it the broad strokes of what will be a policy framework that the Minister for Education will be using in coming up with the fine details as to how our schools will progressively open, beginning with the final year students. But as a student of leadership, you could see clearly that the president's vision of preserving lives, saving lives, protecting his people, came through clearly, followed by the broad set of goals regarding class sizes and all the good stuff. But the details will come from the Minister for Education's briefing, which will give the parents and students something more to digest and follow.
Okay, now talking about WASI, which is, and the BC, which was cancelled by WAEC a few months ago. With the students going back to school, what engagements have we started having with WAEC, and when are we expecting to write the exam?
I think it was suspended by WAEC. So this is an opportunity now that the students are going back to school. I'm sure in the coming days and weeks, you're going to hear more about that, either from the minister or from the Director General of Ghana Education Service in the case of the WAEC examination that was suspended across West Africa by WAEC.
Right, so have those engagements with WAEC begun?
I'll just let you know that once the exams were suspended, WAEC communicated same. So now that the president has given directive as to the return of students, of course, communication will definitely proceed from there. Because now we have a green light from the president, and I'm sure the Director General of Ghana Education Service, after the minister speaks, will be picking up the pieces from there.
Let's talk about private schools for a moment. It's very simple for the enforcements to be done in public schools because we run them. But how are we going to ensure that private schools keep to the protocols?
I'll tell you this. I think private school proprietors are keenly aware of the broad implications of going against the policy of the president. But be as it may, we're humans, and therefore you have the National Inspectorate Board in charge of school inspections that is going to be on standby in that kind of space to ensure there's full compliance. And as the president rightly said, the other agencies, have the district assemblies and other local agencies that I'm sure, as they did during the lockdown and other aspects of COVID-19 prevention, will also be on standby. And I believe, based on my communication and discussion with a number of proprietors, I'm sure that they are keenly aware of what needs to be done to make sure that you don't put any child in harm's way. And I don't believe that you can get into education without thinking about the safety of your children first.
We understand that for those schools which may need some resource investment, I'm talking about schools which lack basic amenities like toilets and sanitation facilities, running water, some construction will be taking place between now and the dates that the schools will reopen. Can you shed some more light on that for us, Dr. Duchum?
Tomorrow is just around the corner. The Minister for Education will be briefing the nation, and I think we should be all ears so that we can get the facts happening.
What has been the level of engagement with the teaching population as we look forward to the reopening of schools?
I think there have been serious engagement both at the level of the Ghana Education Service. That is how serious he takes engagement, that he's not a president who just get up and do things, but you can see that he was actually engrossed in the decision-making process by making himself available, even under COVID-19 circumstances, to meet with the union. So there has been broad consultation, deep consultation, hands-on consultation by a president who truly believes in education and the safety of his people.
Before I go on to my next question, Dr. Duchum, I'll just open the phone lines very quickly so that if there's any one or two questions that listeners would like to get through, you can quickly do that. The phone lines will show at the bottom of your screen very, very quickly so that we can bring them through. Dr. Duchum, I'll read to you one that I got from a headmistress who says, how are we going to afford soap and hand sanitizers for the JHS 3 students who come in Trotro, etc.? Who is going to buy these items for my school?
I think the headmistress is saying, I need logistics. It's not a question. He's just saying, I need it and give it to me. And I'm sure the Minister for Education will be speaking about all those kind of logistical issues for schools.
So there are arrangements in place to bridge that logistics gap across board for JHS and SHS?
As the President rightly said, safety comes first. And let's leave the details to the Minister. It's just tomorrow. Only about 24 hours away, and we'll get all the fine details. And I'm sure the media is going to have a great day digesting and ensuring that everything is done properly so that we can save our children.
We understand totally, Dr. Duchum. We'll just take a couple more questions. 0246 807 983 is the phone in number. 0246 807 983. 0246 807 983. So, Dr. Duchum, finally, before we go on to the listeners' questions, for university students who are not Ghanaian, I'm talking about those who are outside Ghana because of the closure of borders, with final year students returning to school, how are we going to cater for these students?
You know, I won't presume that I know more than the university professors, but there's one thing that they've done that really amazes me, how the president gave a directive that all students should go online, and how quickly they were able to put up platforms and e-learning platforms to comply with the directive from the president. It amazes me. I've always said that before COVID-19, we were crawling at best, but COVID-19 came, and not only did we walk in terms of e-learning, we were actually running up until this time. And I'm sure the university dons, professors are going to do their very best, as they did in accommodating the foreign students who may not be on the shores of this country. Because if anything, they've learned how to use online platforms to execute teaching and learning, and even in some cases assessment. So I'll leave that to my good professors to come up with a solution. I'm sure the Minister for Education will be engaging them in that respect.
Doc, let's hear Angelo from Halfasini, who has a question for you. Good morning, Angelo.
Hello, good morning.
Your question, please.
Please, I'm a final year student in St. John's School, Sarkodie. But my concern was about the dining hall, because we are many when it comes to the dining hall, and the day students will join us in the afternoon and in the morning. So we wanted to know the measure that will be taking place when it comes to dining hall situation, because we are packed, and I know my school is very plenty when it comes to that.
Angelo, just a quick question, Angelo, just a quick one. Would you say that the dining hall will be packed when only final year students are there?
No, because they said according to yesterday, the gold track will also be there. And in the afternoon too, the day students also join us according to what we know, because I'm a dining hall prefect over there. So I was wondering the measure that will be taking place.
Thank you very much, Angelo. So, Dr. Duchum, the dining hall prefect for St. John's School has reached out to us. He says that from what he sees, the facilities there, they may be packed. What will be your answer to him?
Oh, Angelo, I really appreciate the fact that you are thinking about executing your job as the dining hall prefect. Headmasters have done a fantastic job in terms of dining hall arrangements. I remember just before schools were shut down, they reduced the number of students per table by just changing how many plates are served per table. And I'm sure under those circumstances, you have headmasters looking at how they will ensure that you have almost like a shift system, so to speak. So you don't bring all of them together at the same time. Some will go in and eat while others are having class. That has been done by our headmasters, and they are very good at bringing creativity and innovation to the fore. So I don't think that will be a problem at all.
My next caller is Theresa. Good morning, Theresa.
Good morning.
Theresa, your question to the Deputy Minister.
My question is, are you going to use nose mask every day?
Are we going to give out nose masks every day? Theresa, are you a student yourself?
Yes, I'm a student of Toronto Protect.
All right. Thank you very much, Theresa. So, more students calling in. Dr. Duchum, are we going to give out nose masks every day?
That is a good thing for students to call in. We need to hear their voices. I think all those fine details will be worked out and informed. Will inform the minister's press briefing. So let's wait anxiously for Dr. Matthew Puku-Prempeh to speak to the nation tomorrow at 9 a.m.
My next caller is Solomon from Cape Coast. Good morning, Solomon.
Good morning.
Right, Solomon, your question.
Yeah, please, I would like to ask the fate of the single track second-year school student.
The fate of the single track second-year students.
Yes, please. The president said go track. There are some schools which are running single track.
Okay.
So I would like to ask, what are they also coming?
Dr. Dushman, are they also coming?
Oh, very good question. But the rationale for the gold track second year is what my younger brother needs to understand. The rationale is very simple. All the tracks had gone to school and they had done a lot of work. It was left for second year gold track to come to school, and they just began. And then the pandemic hit and they had to be sent home. That's the reason why they are coming. So obviously, the second year single track schools, they've done a lot of instruction at the time the pandemic hit, and they are not part of this dispensation in terms of the second year gold track. You should know that he only says second year thing went amiss in terms of their hours of instruction, and that is why they are coming back.
We're going to take the last caller, Dr. Duchum. She's Daniela from the Volta region. Good morning, Daniela.
Okay.
Good morning, Daniela.
Good morning.
Right, Daniela, let's hear your question.
I want to ask, I'm from a single trust in the Volta region, and I'm a second year. So what have you been doing with the second year?
All right, Daniela, I think that we just about touched on that, but I'll give it to Ms. Dr. Duchum anyway. Doc, so single track second year students, they are staying at home?
Yes, they are staying at home because this is a special dispensation for second year gold track that was more negatively impacted by COVID-19 because they had been home for some time. It was their turn to go back to school.
Right.
COVID-19 came, they were sent back home, and that is why they are coming back. But Joy Pram, I really want to commend you because the youth that are calling in, I mean, you are useful platform. This is insightful and very nice.
Thank you. It's also very nice that you came to speak to our young people, Dr. Educhum, Deputy Minister for Education. Have a good day, sir. My name is Daniel Daze. You're still live on the big interview. We gave you the opportunity to interface with Dr. Yao Educhum. Thanks to all of our young people for calling. Gave us some good plaudits this morning. We're going to take a few messages. When we come back, we'll take the conversation international. We have officials from the World Health Organization and the Africa Center for Disease Control, Africa CDC, to answer all our questions about the general easing of restrictions and the growth of the pandemic. Basic questions, why we're seeing the numbers we're seeing in Ghana now. We are hearing that a spike could move from South America to Africa if that is the case. All issues, busting all the myths when it comes to COVID-19 this morning here on Prime Morning. Stay with us.
Bake it! It's original, you gotta take it. Macberry, 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 bake with love. Macberry, 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 original. Macberry, see we love it, everybody love it. Mama and Papa, them love it. Macberry, Macberry be the biscuit, you be the picking them secret. Macberry, Macberry be the biscuit, and they give everybody when they visit me. Macberry, originally baked with love. Macberry, 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 baked with love. Macberry, 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 original. Originally baked with love.
This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
Introducing Cerelac Biscuity, the new baby cereal from Cerelac, with a great new biscuity taste that babies absolutely love. And of course, it's fortified with iron to support babies' healthy growth, just like all the other nutritious Cerelac flavors. Cerelac, big nutrition for small tummies.
Unlock banking with biometrics. Now, you can access the ABSA mobile banking app using your fingerprint or facial recognition. Download today. That's Africanacity. That's ABSA.
Joy Prime, Hits FM, and the Multimedia Group Limited says thank you. Ayiko. Yenda masanimu jumapa amoye. We say thank you for the good things you are doing for our nation. We say thank you for the good things you are doing for our nation. Money, money, saying thank you, Morio, 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 money ejumambo, Morio, Morio, Morio. We're saying thank you, hey, to our nurses and doctors. We're saying thank you, military officials. We're saying thank you, our policemen. We're saying thank you for standing on the front line through this pandemic. We're saying thank you, our drivers and our farmers, our market women. We're seeing what you're doing. Are you go, ambulance services. It's a constant reminder to all of those who are making a difference to change the world, a difference to heal the land, a difference to give us lives, and a difference to hold the line. Yeah. Monio, we're saying thank you. Monio, we say thank you to our media in Ghana, other health workers, sanitation workers, researchers, and everyone.
Okay, so it's all about real entertainment. We're up inside Newtown right about now, folks. You all know about the COVID-19 situation we found ourselves in, and the problem is causing Mother Africa, the world entirely. Ladies and gentlemen, it is very expensive to actually live a life where you know that something very small as nose mask can actually make you lose your life. It is very, very expensive. But we want to make it easier. So Joy Prime, in collaboration with many people who have decided to also save a life, we're putting this together, and we're here at Newtown. Now, basically, I'm going to be going around scouting for people who do not have nose masks on, and then try as much as possible to be the Father Christmas for COVID-19 in this situation. I'm sure you really want to also help. Whatever it is, make sure that you're supporting somebody with a nose mask, and trust me, we're all going to be living by the end of 2021 or 2022. Crack, July, you know what happened, you know what I mean? Because we're showing love to people, and right about now, Charlie, what's up? Everything cool? Yeah. What do they sell for here?
Well, they sell building materials.
But you know, some places give people artists where you don't want to protect yourself.
You don't want to protect yourself.
What will happen? Why don't you have the nose mask? You don't go, you don't get that. The virus today,
you know, we say we not get, we get them back because they.
But right now they say we all for endure. Whether heat or no heat, because you see, the point is that when you have the mask on, the heat will be there. But as long as you have the mask, you're protecting yourself. So it be uncomfortable, but you don't want that. Or you won't die by July.
No.
You don't want that. Okay, so right now, I will show you love. So I get nose mask for here. So if for day one so make sure you go day one every time. So that's what it is, man. We're still here in town, in Newtown, and we're showing love. It's all about protecting people, giving them reasons to put on the nose masks. And trust me, Joy Prime, we're doing this. I'm going to the next point to find out who does not have the nose mask so that I can actually show some love to that person, all right? Follow me. Accra.
I was Accra.
Accra. Charlie, make I talk to you for 1 minute. You know, you'll be made for a year. You don't get no smarts. Wait me and I can't board the car. So if I board the car right now where you give me virus, I won't go happen. This is no be good thing. This is no be good thing. You don't get no smarts. Where the shot Accra going. So me, I can't join where the shot Accra going on me where you give me virus. This is no try. That's why I won't show you love. So Joy Prime, we got something we want me to protect yourself, like the way I protect myself. So take one for here, then where I make a see. Where I'm right now, where I'm like the way I wear my own. Where I'm, put down for it. No, tenor. You see, you know, so with the drum, so. Then we look up for your ear. So then go pull them down. So shout Accra going, let's hear.
Accra going.
See, you don't go give anybody any sickness. So every time you protect yourself. People come there, they can't say that they are protected. You don't go shout, give me 5 cedi, your money and that kind of thing. They will give the virus is there. It be risky. You see that thing? Accra going.
Joy Prime.
To all our emergency doctors, you never know who is walking through those doors, but you tend to everybody without fear.
The staff of the Gucci, Kolebu, KCCR, and all other testing centers. Where would we be without you?
We know some of you have been badly affected by this virus, yet you defy the fear of the unknown to fight against this virus on our behalf.
You have been awesome in these trying times. You put your lives on the line every day.
We feel safe because we know you are there. We really do appreciate you all. And what we can say at this moment is thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all we can say.
Still live on Prime Morning here. This is the big interview. We're going to be joined next, like I told you, by Dr. Mary Stephen, Technical Officer at the World Health Organization Regional Office for Africa. Dr. Stephen, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Right, Dr. Stephen, thanks for joining us. I first of all want to find out, we saw an Asian country having the highest number of cases, then we saw that peak go to Europe, where it was Italy. Then we saw the United States overtake Italy. Then recently we are seeing Brazil in South America. Experts say Africa should look out to have the highest number of cases next. Would you say this is correct?
Okay, good morning and thank you for having me. So for the evolution of the outbreak in Africa, if you look at the situation globally, you can see that the situation in Africa is pretty much different from what is happening, what we are seeing globally. Yes, we have not seen the peak of the outbreak yet on the continent, but the measures that our governments have put in place has helped to slow down the progression of the outbreak. As a result, we are not seeing the numbers presenting as predicted. So far, Africa has been reporting the least number of cases. And if you break it down to the different countries, you will see that majority of the cases, over 50%, they are coming from just 5 countries. And if you expand it a bit, 80% from about 10 countries. So we have different situations in the countries, but overall, we have the least number of cases, we have the least number of deaths on the continent, and the countries have so far slowed down the progression of the outbreak.
Now, Dr. Stephen, Ghana recently sequenced the genome of the virus in Ghana and saw a similarity between what is here and what happened in Wuhan. However, we have seen 8,070 cases and 36 deaths. Our death rate is very low. Our positivity rate is also very low, as opposed to other countries elsewhere in the world. Why is this so? Do we know why?
Okay, so now another thing apart from the epidemiology, you also need to take into account some of the measures being implemented by countries in Africa. So early on, right from the beginning, when the outbreak in Wuhan was reported, Africa started implementing interventions to enhance their readiness capacity for detection, testing, and response to COVID-19 cases. So the early action has contributed to what we are seeing on the continent in terms of how the outbreak is spreading. Secondly, the way governments in Africa implemented all these measures, the surveillance, robust surveillance to detect cases, where you will see countries even doing door-to-door surveillance. Testing, we have a number of countries that are expanding, doing community testing, treatment of these cases, isolation and contact tracing. So if you look at the situation in Wuhan and what is happening in Africa, I wouldn't say the interventions are exactly the same. But apart from that, maybe there might be some other things that we don't know that is contributing to helping Africa. But we know that the interventions that the government have implemented has helped a lot in slowing down the progression of the outbreak.
Right, and we've just been joined by Dr. Benjamin Judalbai. He's the head of policy, health diplomacy and communications at the Africa CDC. That's the Africa Center for Disease Control. Dr. Judalbai, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
Great. Let me come to you very, very quickly. And we just heard Dr. Mary Stephen mention how steps taken by different governments in Africa may account for the low number of deaths we've seen and the general lower number of cases. We are now entering a phase in a number of countries where restrictions are beginning to ease. Given the number of cases we've seen in the past few weeks, do you think this is a good idea?
First of all, let me thank you for this opportunity of speaking with you, and let me greet all fellow Ghanaians. I'm happy to be with you online. Yes, what the governments, different governments did in Africa was very important, because we have seen the numbers, our numbers are growing up, but slowly, very slowly, and moving quickly to the lockdowns really helped the matter.
So easing them, is that the way to go now that you see the numbers moving slowly? Is easing the restrictions a good move now?
It is a good move, because the economic impact of the lockdowns will be huge, and it will be very, very difficult for the different governments in Africa to recover post-COVID era. So it is good that now some countries are considering easing. But prior to easing the lockdown, there are some key things that we need to do. First is to conduct a risk assessment to understand the impact, right? Ensure the key systems are in place. What are these key systems? To look at the surveillance system, in terms of case detection, in terms of contact tracing, in terms of testing, in terms of medical services, in terms of community engagement. These are the systems that we need to look at them critically. Also, we need to meet the criteria for easing the lockdown. One, is the epidemic under control? That is number one. Two, is the health system able to cope with the resurgence of the COVID-19 cases that may arise after easing the lockdown? Three, is the public health surveillance system able to detect and manage the cases and their contact and identify a resurgence of cases? So these are the considerations that we need to see before we go to the. Then you move to stepwise easing the lockdown. First, by implementing at the smallest geographical area. That is something that is very important to look at. You don't ease the lockdown in the country as it may require, but you look at the smallest geographic unit, and you ease the lockdown at that level. You determine which measures should ease first. You need to ease the most detrimental measures to communities first. Okay. Right. And you can ease now the public health and social measures gradually and monitor the outcomes. Okay. Let me stop.
Right. Doctor, let me quickly just get a word from Dr. Mary Stephen on activities like election-related activities. We saw that South Korea carried out its election, reported that there was a spike of cases after that. We saw that in France as well. They carried out electoral activities. We saw a spike in cases after that. Would you advise that activities like elections, voter registration, what have you, go on in Africa in this period?
For COVID-19, yes, we have seen quite a number of issues as it regards to election. But there has been a guidance document published by WHO on how to guide countries if they choose to have elections. So basically, mass gathering, we know, is one of the risks that exposes people to potential COVID-19. So now, when countries decide to go on with election, they have to make sure that they are implementing all the preventive measures. The issue of making sure they are reducing the number of people at the same place at a time, making sure that these people are observing the at least 1 meter distance, cough etiquette, hand washing, and ensuring that all surfaces potentially that people will touch are disinfected regularly to reduce the spread of COVID-19. So they have to do a risk assessment first of all, before deciding whether or not they need to go on with the election, and that risk assessment will also depend on the epidemiological situation they are seeing in a given country. But in addition to that, observe all the measures I've just mentioned.
Right. Dr. Churubai, you mentioned that we need, in easing the restrictions or lifting the lockdown, we should look at what is most detrimental to the society first. Ghana has just entered a phase where churches and schools are going to reopen beginning from this weekend, that is the churches. Would you say, given the socio-economic background of African countries, we are deeply religious, it's advisable to open churches now, even with reduced restrictions?
Okay, we at Africa CDC, we are recommending phased approach. Okay, the phase one for us is opening essential shops, borders for essential travels of workers and goods, allowing social gatherings of less than 10 people with physical distancing. It's very important. Okay, and maintaining non-COVID essential health services. That is the first phase that we are recommending. The second phase is to open non-essential priority businesses, large marketplaces for essential goods, orders for trade and travel with point of entry controls, and opening schools with priority years, those who are going to enter universities or those who are going to pass the A-level or A-level examinations, and the selected venues like churches. That is the second phase. You don't go, churches, mosques, restaurants. That is the second phase. And the third phase is open and working. But these in these steps can be considered and provide the social distancing and hand hygiene is maintained. It's very, very important. Now, maintain all these public health and social measures.
All right,
so you go on phase approach. You don't just but if Ghana has the means to and have everything in place, yes, they can go for this large easing the lockdown possible.
Right. I'm going to take just quick final comments from both of our guests. Thank you very much. We would have to continue this on another day so we can go into all the issues. But Dr. Stephen, you work with the WHO here in Africa. What would you say is the greatest challenge your body faces in fighting the spread of the disease here? After that, I'll take the perspective of Dr. Churubai, who is with the Africa CDC, a body of the AU. Dr. Stephen.
Thank you. So for this COVID-19 outbreak, the major challenge basically for Africa and getting countries to implement the response, it's mainly on our health system. We know that the system in Africa is overstretched already with other diseases. So now from the beginning of the outbreak, it has been a challenge to have countries access ventilators, the oxygen supply, right. ICU. So these are some of the challenges that were really difficult to address in the context of Africa, because we know that we go to the same market with everyone around the world. And so as a result, these equipment were not readily available on the continent for the simple reason that we do not.
Hey guys, so today I'm going to show you how to make a one-pot chicken and potato dinner recipe that takes very little time to create. Figuring out what to make for dinner can be a very daunting task, but with this particular recipe that I'm about to show you how to make, I tell you that this will become one of your favorite dinner recipes to create, because it's actually very easy and it uses a one-pan method. Alright, let's get right into this cooking action. So you guys, this recipe requires a mixture, a combination of different aromatic spices.
This yummy dinner recipe begins with me transferring my spices into my mixing bowl. I start with the Valido chicken spice, then the Valido ground ginger and the Valido nutmeg. I also add some dry rosemary, my ground chili pepper and definitely some salt to taste. Then to make this marinade into a paste, I'm adding some vegetable oil to bind all of the ingredients together. Afterwards, I give this a very good mix and proceed to add in this very lush and soft chicken